You know you are right. You have the facts. You want to scream. But instead, your throat tightens and you start to cry. It feels like a betrayal. You aren't sad, you are furious. So why is your body weeping? Society calls this weakness, but neuroscience says it's actually a safety valve that prevents your brain from a literal stroke. Your throat tightens, your chin starts to quiver, your vision blurs, and to your absolute horror, you start to cry. You aren't sad, you are furious. You want to scream, but instead, you are weeping. It feels like the ultimate betrayal by your own body. For years, society has looked at this reaction and labeled it as weakness. You have been told to toughen up, to stop being so dramatic, to build a thicker skin. You have likely apologized 1,000 times for your waterworks, muttering that you're sorry for being so emotional. But what if I told you that the diagnosis you've been given your whole life is completely wrong? What if those angry tears are not a system failure, but a biological safety valve that prevents your high-voltage brain from short-circuiting? Today, we are going to dismantle the myth that crying makes you weak. We are going to look at the neuroscience of the weeper versus the stoic, and prove that your sensitivity is actually a sign of a highly advanced, evolutionarily essential operating system. To understand why you cry when you are angry or overwhelmed, we first have to kill the idea that crying is only about sadness. For you, crying has very little to do with grief and everything to do with intensity. Psychologists and neuroscientists have found that people who cry easily often possess a nervous system wired for high receptivity. Imagine the average brain is like a smooth rock. Sensory input hits it, noise, stress, other people's moods, and it mostly rolls right off. But your brain is a high-density sponge. You absorb everything. You don't just hear a voice, you process the slight tremor in the tone. You don't just see a face, you register the micro-expression of disappointment that flashes for a fraction of a second. You feel the humidity of the room and the emotional pressure of the person standing 3 feet away. You are processing sensory data at a volume and resolution that would absolutely crush a rock person. When this massive amount of data hits a critical threshold, whether that input is rage, joy, frustration, or beauty, your brain screams, "System overload." It needs to discharge that energy immediately before the machine breaks. This is where the biology gets fascinating. Crying is the mechanical trigger that activates your parasympathetic nervous system. This is your body's rest and digest mode, the brake pedal that counteracts the fight-or-flight response. When you cry during that argument, you aren't breaking down. Your body is aggressively dumping acetylcholine into your system to slow your heart rate so you don't have a stroke. The angry cry is a sophisticated biological cooling mechanism. You are self-regulating in real time. Now let's look at your antagonist, the stoic, the person who stands there, dry-eyed and unbothered, telling you to calm down. Society tells us they are the strong ones, but biology tells a very different story. When a person suppresses that release, the stress doesn't just vanish, it stays. It soaks into their muscles, keeps their blood pressure spiked, and floods their system with cortisol. Studies have consistently linked the chronic suppression of tears and emotional release to a weakened immune system, cardiovascular issues, and stress-related illness. So, while you might feel embarrassed in the moment with your wet face, you are biologically winning. You are purging the poison. They are storing it. You are flushing the stress out of your system, while they are letting it rot their foundations. This isn't just a metaphor, it is chemical fact. This is the insight that usually changes everything for people like us. Did you know that emotional tears are chemically different from the tears you cry when you get dust in your eye? Reflex tears, the ones for dust, are mostly just water. But emotional tears? Under a microscope, they are a thick chemical cocktail packed with stress hormones and a substance called Leucine enkephalin. Leucine enkephalin is a natural painkiller. It is an endogenous opioid. Your body is literally producing a natural anesthetic and physically flushing toxins out of your eyeballs. You aren't just crying, you are running a high-efficiency waste management cycle. But if this trait is so healthy, why does it feel so vulnerable? Why did evolution design a human who dissolves into tears when things get intense? If we were running from predators on the savannah, the crying human seems like the easy target. However, evolutionary psychologists suggest a profound twist. You were never meant to be the warrior running blindly into battle. You were designed to be the sentinel. In ancient tribes, survival didn't just depend on the brute force of the hunters. If a tribe only consisted of tough guys who suppressed their feelings and ignored subtle cues, that tribe would walk straight into an ambush. The tribe needed sentinels. They needed people with high-fidelity radar who could sense a shift in the group dynamic, who could feel the tension in the air before violence erupted, who could detect a lie or a threat just by reading the room. Your high sensitivity, the very thing that makes you cry, is that radar. The tears are just the side effect of a system that is always on. You possess hyperactive mirror neurons, which allow you to not just understand what someone else is feeling, but to simulate it in your own body. This is why you cry at movies or why news stories ruin your day. You are bridging the gap between me and you. In a disconnected world, this isn't a flaw. It's the glue holding humanity together. You are the early warning system. You are the emotional moral compass. So, how do you handle this in the real world, especially when it feels humiliating? The first step is to stop fighting the physics of your own body. Trying to stop the tears when you are overwhelmed is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It takes immense effort. You stop listening to the other person because you're so focused on not crying. And eventually, the ball flies up and hits you in the face anyway. Instead, we need to change the narrative in the moment. Here is a simple, actionable tool called the narration hack. The next time you are in a conflict and you feel that familiar burn in your eyes and the lump in your throat, do not apologize. Do not say, "I'm sorry, I'm such a mess." Instead, state the biological fact. Say this, "I'm crying because I am frustrated, not because I am giving up. Please keep listening." Or, "My face is having a reaction, but my mind is sharp." Continue. This is a power move. It acknowledges the physical reality without accepting the shame. It tells the other person that your tears are not a white flag of surrender. They are just the steam from the engine working hard. It forces them to listen to your words, not just look at your tears. Furthermore, you must recognize that your battery drains faster than the rocks of the world. Because you process 8K resolution in a standard definition world, you need sensory detox. This means that when you feel the edge approaching, you don't just need rest in the form of scrolling social media. You need an absence of input. 10 minutes in a dark, quiet room can reset a sensitive nervous system better than 2 hours of sleep. You need to offload the data so you have space to function again. I want you to walk away with this truth and let it settle deep in your bones. To feel things deeply, to let them move you to the point of overflowing, requires a courage that the numb do not possess. The tough people who bottle everything up are often brittle. They break under pressure because they cannot bend. But you are fluid. You release, you reset, and you endure. You are not broken because you cry. You are simply high resolution in a low definition world. Your ability to feel is not a burden you need to shed. It is the very thing that makes you human. If this video helped you feel a little less alone, or if you are currently reaching for a tissue, let me know in the comments. And if you have a friend who is always apologizing for their waterworks, share this with them. Tell them, you aren't weak, you're just flushing the cortisol. But I also know that sometimes sensitivity goes the other way. Sometimes, to protect yourself, you don't cry. You shut down completely. You cut people off. If you want to understand the psychology of why you might ghost people to save your own sanity, that is our next deep dive. Click this video right here, and I'll see you there.